Hello, good evening, and welcome back. Good news. What a nice change. Scotland Yard drop late-hate probe into Darren Grimes and David Starkey after a story in sparks fury over the damn blacks comment. I love context. In YouTube interview. For those of you who don't know, it was between Darren Grimes interviewing David Starkey, and over the course of about an hour, they touched on slavery, and David Starkey said that, slavery was not genocide, otherwise there wouldn't be so many damn blacks in Africa or in Britain. And it's the way he speaks for emphasis, but of course by using the word damn followed by the word blacks, then it's racist. And it's not just racist, it's liable for a criminal investigation level of racist. Not just into the person that said it, but also to the person who happened to be in the room at the same time that was hosting the interview. So yes, there's one thing for a person who said it to be affected, but it's quite another for somebody who was then talking to them to also be indicted in it. And so, thankfully, this has been dropped. However, let us not forget the fallen, if you will, the thousands plus per year, which are fined or convicted or sentenced, depending on how bad it gets, for speech, for jokes, even. And Marcus Meechan, Candankula, is an example of that with his pug. Fined £800. Who then say, well, no, I'm not going to pay it. And so the Scottish government just took the money out of his account. And that is why he's going to the European Court of Appeals. And so, yes, all the money that he's raised from it, the six figures that he's raised, he hasn't seen a penny of it. It's all gone into the legal firm. He needs 3 lawyers to sign off on the money before he could see any of it. So that's not going to happen at all. But these are the ones that make the news. And so there are so many more that, of course, do not make the news. Because if Scotland Yard are ready to investigate such benign comments such as this, then you've got to realise that they're doing the same for a lot of other benign comments. And they do it so much that they never see the light of day. It never gets reported on. The news is never there because it just isn't a big enough story for people to take note. And that is the main problem. It is not that the law has been changed or anything like that. Not at all. It's just the Conservative government is trying to push their agenda and confining speech as they see fit to try and maintain as much power as possible without understanding the consequences of their actions. But that's just government in a nutshell, not understanding unforeseen consequences, but having overreached nonetheless. And so these poor people who do not have backing, who do not have an audience, who can't get their message out, they then suffer and you never hear about them. And that is the real issue here. But to get back on topic for Darren Grimes and David Starkey, well, good. David Starkey as well feels vindicated that nothing he said was racist in fact or intent, as he said. And in a statement today, Darren Grimes, who was previously investigated for allegedly violating electoral laws during the 2016 EU referendum. Isn't that brilliant? That's just going to be the statement. It's like, yeah, but it wasn't true. Doesn't matter. We're still going to mention that. It's just like Tommy Robinson, whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, who founded EDL. It's like, well, this seems a bit irrelevant now, especially when someone's investigated for something that then isn't true. So how's about that then? Said he is delighted to be free from months, if not years, of yet more legal drama occupying his life. He blasted the unprecedented use of the Public Order Act to regulate speech and debate, calling the probe vexatious and truly chilling indeed. Dr. Starkey told Mail Online that the investigation should never have taken place, calling it misconceived, oppressive, and designed to misuse the criminal law to curtail the proper freedom of expression and debate. Very nicely said, but that's the kind of thing that you would expect from David Starkey, of course. As Darren Grimes posted in an update on Twitter, I have good news. The police have completed their review of the investigation into me to ensure that it remained proportionate. It's never proportionate in the first place, and have decided to close it entirely. I'm delighted to be free for months, if not years, of yet more legal drama occupying my life. However, the fact that it was allowed to reach this point, the fact that precedent has been set that says a broadcaster or journalist can face police arrest and a maximum of 7 years prison time for interviewing a controversial guest is truly chilling indeed. I will still seek the CPS advice that justify the wasting of police resources, time, and taxpayer money on investigating the vexatious charge that I stirred up racial hatred in the first place and the unprecedented use of the Public Order Act to regulate speech and debate. And very good, there has to be some level of recourse for this. Otherwise, it's going to keep happening. That, yes, there will be incidents that are not seen because they don't make the news and they're not a big enough story, but when it is seen and it's shown just how ridiculous this is getting, the consequences for it have to be so severe that nobody's going to try and do the same thing to anybody else in the future. And he finishes off with, I'd like to thank all of you for your support, especially those who dislike my politics but recognise the dangerous precedent this case set. I'd especially like to thank the Free Speech Union and Luke Skitos for their tireless work in seeking to defend freedom of expression. And that is, of course, why the Free Speech Union was necessary and is still ongoing, even though you'd really hope that something like this isn't there at all. And they say it has also emerged that Med Commissioner Cressida Dick was only made aware of the probe after the Fuhrer blew up in the media on October 9th. But again, that's to be expected, that she wouldn't know about every investigation that's going on. So yes, and again, that's also the problem, that when you get such overreaching government regulations, that people aren't accountable for their actions from the governmental side. And that is the issue. But that's about it. Wrapping up, that's finally some good news. Just to wrap up with David Starkey saying, the investigation should never, of course, have begun. From the beginning, it was misconceived, oppressive, and designed to misuse the criminal law to curtail the proper freedom of expression and debate. This freedom is our birthright, and it is more important than ever at this critical juncture in our nation's history. The collapse of the police investigation is also a personal vindication. Back in July, I apologised unreservedly for a deplorable choice of words and paid a significant price. Losing a book deal as well, of course. Today's announcement, however, confirms that nothing that I said was racist in fact or in intent. I shall now move forward with both my academic work and my public commentary. And let us hope that what he says is true and he is able to move forward with his work and commentary, and this won't be held against him, as often is when people have allegations made against them, that, again, their anonymity is not maintained, that there are discussions made on ongoing investigations, and of course, when it all comes out in the wash that nothing happened, often that doesn't really matter, because the court of public opinion will be so that the woke Twitterati will not allow anybody to interact with them because they find unacceptable, and that is what the vocal minority wish to spend their life doing. Not to create anything, not to do anything worthwhile, but just to tear everyone else down, because they're aware of their own insufficiencies and inadequacies, and that if they actually put their mind to it, they could achieve something worthwhile, but they're not ready to do that. So to make themselves feel better, instead of to build themselves up and do something meaningful, they're just going to tear everybody down and bring them down to their level. But as always, let me know what you guys think down below. Always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. And as always, until next time, have a good one.